Hello. Mickey, so nice to see you. Morning, everyone. Wow, it is so nice to see you, all of you. I feel a little new. You feel new? So we will get through this together. But I'm going to just kind of start off with some housekeeping notes. We're going to follow the CDC guidelines. If you have been vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. If you have not been vaccinated, we ask that you do please wear a mask or whatever makes you feel the most comfortable. That's the most important thing. We want you to be very comfortable, but we also want you to be very safe. Obviously, this is our first meeting back in a very long time. I've missed so many of you. I can't begin to tell you how incredibly difficult this last year was on everyone. And so it's really nice to be back with our community and our friends and family and loved ones. So thank you. It's great to see so many of you. I've missed you all year. Okay, so with that being said, we are going to go, I believe, live video, correct? No? Yes, okay. So we are going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm super excited because it's Mrs. Hart's class at Jesse Beck, and that's where I went to school a very long time ago. I'm not going to tell you how long ago because then you'll figure it out. So, and they are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'm really excited. They're first graders at Jesse Beck Elementary.
Hello, we're the Jesse Beck students in first grade in the dual language. Hello, we're the Jesse Beck students in first grade in the dual language program. Welcome back to City Hall.
We really appreciate you putting our posters in City Hall because we want to make sure that people take care of the Truckee River.
We are going to lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance in English and Spanish.
Check your hands. Left hand on your side, right hand on your body.
She goes hard.
Body. Eyes on the flag, ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yo le doy mi lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
Hello,
Very
we're
nice.
Jesse
Good job. Let's give him a hand. I love that.
Madam Mayor, the first graders also are the ones who are responsible for the artwork in Chambers, and it was their class project to learn more about the Truckee River and all of its beauty and glory, and try to keep it safe and protected, which I know is a passion of yours.
Fantastic. I love it. I love it. I was fortunate enough to Zoom with them several times during the last year, and they have done a phenomenal job. Mrs. Hart is incredible, so they're lucky to have her. Okay, I'm going to send it back to you, Madam Clerk. We're going to start off with roll call.
All right, Madam Mayor, we're going to call roll. Councilmember Breckus. Here. Councilmember Dorr. Here. Delgado. Here. Weber. Here. Jardin. Here. Reese.
Here.
Sheevy.
Here.
Madam Mayor, you do have a quorum of the Reno City Council.
All right, thank you so much. At this time, I think Madam Clerk, you might need to direct me. Are we going to our city manager or public comment?
We're going to go ahead and go with public comment.
Perfect.
This is a reminder to anyone in the room, if you have registered for online public comment and you clicked that you wanted to speak, please come up and register so I know you're in the room and you're present. All right, we have received written public comment and online public comment from Amy Fleming, Victor Leal, Jack Serrano, Jim Galloway, Linda Burke, George Burke, Mike Williams, Tom Fennell, Bridget Tevin, Nick Necht, Michael Hicks on behalf of the Reno Philharmonic, Kelsey Hoffman, Dwight George, Natalie Handler, and Everett George on behalf of People's of Solidarity Program. In addition to that, in the room today, we have Ronald Flores, Liz Keller, Jake Maynard, Jimmy, Gemma Alvarez, and Michael MacArthur, who have submitted general public comment but do not wish to speak. Their comments will be included in the record. We do not have any voicemails to play today, so we're going to go ahead and move right into general live public comment for the first time in about a year and a half. This is a reminder that public comment is limited to 3 minutes. Unused time may not be reserved or allocated to another speaker. No action may be taken on items raised under general public comment until it is included on an agenda. Our first public commenter today is Alex Statinsky, followed by Mark Markell, followed by Ron Araya.
Okay, good work. Honorable Mayor and City Council, my name is Alex Statinsky, Executive Director of the Downtown Reno Partnership for the Record. Today I'm speaking on behalf of the board who represents over 1,000 property owners, commercial and residential. We are impressed with the speed the Nevada Cares Campus was created and able to open its doors. Washoe County and the cities of Sparks and Reno united to build a 600-bed shelter which allows pets and accounts for couples. In addition, we have a 265-bed women's shelter managed by Rise. The chair of the DRP board, Partholz, and myself toured our place, and we were impressed with how well the shelter was run. The community is not stopping here, and it shouldn't stop. Much is still to be done and needed to create a sustainable solution for the mental health and housing crisis we and the entire nation are facing. However, we now have reached a point where we can start addressing the severe health and safety issues we have been dealing with for a long time. Encampments along the river, in parks and other public areas are not safe. They're not safe for the people living in them, and they're not safe for the community at large. Just in the past 3 months, RPD, the ambassadors, Fire, and Remsa Health have received not hundreds, but thousands of calls for service just in that little area behind the ballpark down the Truckee River alone. It has been a struggle to keep our public spaces clean and accessible for all community members, including children and senior citizens. Now, RPD has been working really hard and tirelessly to connect our houseless community to services, caseworkers, and suitable shelter. The DRP ambassadors, the Karma Box Project, and others have been working in partnership to support RPD's efforts by giving the individuals ample notice, between 2 to 6 weeks, depending on location. The ambassadors offer any support desired, and if needed, take a client by his or her hand and walk them to places that can provide them the help and the support that's needed. The compassion, however, must be coupled with clarity and guidelines that will prevent going back to unhealthy living conditions. We must enforce codes and ordinances again. And it's time to administer the rules that were created to keep public spaces balanced, safe, and enjoyable for the entire community. A caring community can assist those in need while enforcing boundaries that protect our public spaces. And Reno is on its way in becoming an example of the right balance between compassion and enforcement. We encourage everyone to support those on the front lines of this brave and needed endeavor. And we would like to urge Washoe County and the cities of Reno and Sparks to continue to diligently collaborate to ensure the efforts will continue and bear fruit. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, Madam Mayor, we're actually going to have Chief Cochran come up and make our next public comment.
Okay. Oh.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I'm here to introduce you to our newest member of the fire department. I have with me Investigator Sean O'Brien and our arson dog, Boston. And I'm going to let Sean speak about Boston.
Boston. Aren't you a cutie?
Good morning.
So he's living with me, right?
No, he does come home with me. I
Oh, he
apologize.
comes home with you?
So this is Boston. He's our newest Accelerant Detection Dog. Reno Fire has actually never had an Accelerant Detection Dog, so this is really exciting for us. We're looking forward to serving the community and the communities around us. His primary purpose is if we do get a fire and we have any kind of suspicion that maybe it was set intentionally, he helps us find samples to send to lab to see if accelerants were used or not. So basically we walk them through burn fire scenes and we will detect if there's any kind of accelerant. We'll send it back to lab. They'll tell us if it's gasoline, kerosene, whatever it may be. This little guy can pick it up.
Wow, that is amazing. So what does that entail? Like how do you train a dog to do that? Like how long does it take and
So
sort of
the
what's
class for me to learn how to work Boston was a 200-hour course. He is trained prior to my arrival for basically a year and a half. His first year and a half of his life is just to be a service dog. Boston and the rest of his classmates had a little bit too much drive to be service dogs in other ways. He was originally intended to be a seeing eye dog, but, squirrel. He's too much drive. So they redirect him into a different working profession, and normally it's bomb or arson, they call them arson dogs, bomb or accelerants, and he found a home there. So it's about a 200-hour course for a month for me to learn how to work him. He is a food reward dog, so we train every single day because the only way he gets fed is by training, so we train a minimum twice a day.
That's
And as you can
phenomenal.
see, he's nonstop.
You can tell.
Yes.
Very hard to get along with. I think you all have a Memorial Boston.
That's fantastic. I love it.
Yes.
Has
Now
he
you
been
know
put
why.
to work yet or not yet?
So we've taken him on a couple different fire scenes. He has actually worked through one fire scene. And we currently have the sample sent out to the lab to see if.
So
he
we're
got
going
a
to see
proper
how
hit or
well
not.
he's doing.
Yes.
Okay, let us
So
know.
it'll be his first official confirmation should be in a couple days. Yeah. Oh, no.
Well, Boston, we wish you
I
a
don't
lot
treat
of
him
luck.
that way. I don't throw him.
Super cute.
Yeah. Any other questions I can answer for you folks?
He's pretty cute. Hey, Boston. Boston. Boston.
too much going on.
He's not having it.
Yeah, so he's a people watcher. Even when we walk around, once he starts getting tired, so he stops pulling me. He actually just sits his butt down and watches people across the parking lot when they're loading their car, doing anything. He just watches.
Wow. Is he a black lab?
Yes, 100%.
He's a pure
Yep.
black lab.
Madam Mayor, Councilman Reese and I had an opportunity to do a demonstration with him just outside this morning, and he is sharp.
Is
He
he
is
sharp?
So we had a few little pails, and he was able to sense the ones that had gas in and the ones that didn't. And
Wow.
right on demand, he was money. So we're lucky to have him.
Yeah.
Amazing, awesome.
He's very good at what he
Well,
does.
he is adorable.
He is
So-
on call in this building every day, so if you ever need a little dog time.
Oh, definitely.
Sean,
Definitely. We're still working on the dog policy. I know it's somewhere in this building. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good luck, Boston.
All right, back in order. Mark Markel, Ron Araya, and Paul White.
Good morning, Miss Mayor. Your hair looks beautiful, by the way. Good morning, Miss Mayor, City Councilmember, members, and City Manager. My name is Mark Markel, and I'm a concerned Reno resident. I'm here today to warn people and show people what can happen when you get in the car with a drunk driver. Way back in '89, I got in the car with a drunk driver, and we were doing 100 miles an hour, and we rolled 8 times, and I was ejected, and it landed on my head, putting me in a coma for a month, in the hospital for 5.5 months more. I had to learn to eat. I can't talk very well, but I had to learn to talk as well as I can. And I had to learn, I can't walk that well, but I can stand up. I had to learn to do everything all over again. And I just here to warn people about getting in the car as a drunk driver. It's a mistake, and I thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Good job.
Ron Araya, Paul White, followed by Bruce Parks.
Good morning. I'm Ron Ariel, and I'm here on behalf of the City of Reno's COVID Task Force. And so we're here, after many months of very hard work, and I know this pandemic has been hard on everybody, especially the mayor. So we're here to make a special presentation to the mayor so allow me to read it. And this is on behalf of the members of the task force. Mayor Hillary Sheevy, thank you for your vision and leadership during the COVID-19 global pandemic. Your actions to form an advisory team of local leaders, medical professionals, and scientists provided invaluable help to our region's COVID response, shepherding the creation of the Truckee Meadows COVID risk meter, and facilitating the dissemination of critical information regarding COVID-19 conditions to the residents of our region. You helped keep our city safe. And this is City of Reno COVID Task Force, June 1st, 2021.
Oh, Dr. Ron, that is so incredibly kind.
And
But honestly, it was all of you on the task force that really got me through this last year. And I mean, I'm so fortunate to have such a great group of professionals that really could guide us in such a way.
Permission to approach the diet?
Yes, please. Dr. Ron, that is so kind.
So there's another plaque here that says courage, vision, and dominance.
Oh, yeah, I don't think I can read. Oh. That really, honestly, Dr. Ron, that goes to everyone that was on the task force. I want to say thank you. From the bottom of my heart. Mwah. Thank you so very much. Thank you. And Councilwoman Dewar, she was my co-pilot along the way, and I have to say we learned a lot, we cried a lot, we worked a lot, and honestly, your expertise in this community was phenomenal. We were so fortunate to have incredible physicians, epidemiologists, public health specialists from the university all over the community. It was impressive, and we couldn't have done it without you. Because usually we're so used to working with our fire and our police, and also Rebecca Venus was tremendous in helping us message every step of the way. But like I said, we're usually used to working with our fire police. It was a different dynamic bringing in medical professionals that we had never met before or worked with. And so it really is a massive reminder of how important our healthcare is, our infrastructure with our healthcare, and all of the people that work in public health. We built a lot of great relationships with the university and your team, and I mean, incredibly smart, young programmers, tech programmers that I was just incredibly proud. One of them was Zooming in from, I think he's in Boston. Yeah, Brown University. He was tremendous. That was Jack Hester.
Jack Hester, that's right.
Yeah. So thank you so very much. I knew when we got in person I was going to start to cry. These were people that we made friendships with over the last year, and we had never met in person. And so it was incredibly special. So I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, Dr. Ron.
And I want to add one other thing is I want to thank, in part it's Devin Reese's fault that I'm standing here. See, I got to tell you something. It's a really bad idea to pass by him talking about needing to do something or wanting something to do. Unless you really mean it, because if he hears you say it, he'll give you something to do. And so, he gave me something to do. So,
And I called him and I said, "Who is this Dr. Ron?" He said, "Oh, you're going to love him. You're going to love him."
So I want to thank Councilman Reese for giving me the privilege of helping out.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Paul White, Bruce Parks, followed by Dwight George and Everett George.
Well, I tell you what, let's dry our tears and try a little reality this morning, okay? The challenge of the years-long lockdown and council meetings, it revealed the entire city council for what you are. Disgustingly selfish, cowardly individuals who abandoned our community for a year in its time of need. While everyone else in the community that the council personally relies on continued to push on. First responders, restaurants, retail stores, construction workers, car mechanics, etc. Where was the city council, especially our joke of a mayor? I'm talking, you're not. Totally hid from doing their jobs, canceled public meetings, left the city to fend for itself. Never mind that the county commissioners and the school board continued to meet publicly. Our council decided citing health concerns was a great excuse for taking care of themselves first. To hell with the rest of the community. The front of City Hall was left looking like a humiliating junk pile for months due to the fact that the rioting was allowed to happen by the council, forcing the police to stand down. It's still locked down. Making and maintaining City Hall entrance of our great city the second floor of a dumpy parking garage was a move that only an arrogant group of publicly subsidized leeches like yourselves would consider a good idea. And by the way, who told the security guard to tell everybody City Hall was closed, nobody was working, when the City Hall was full of people working the whole time? What's happened since you've been gone, council members? Well, with the whole community losing money, you showed your empathy by taking a 14% raise. Great move. You let the homeless problem get exponentially worse with Mayor Sheevy, who demanding the social workers and not police respond to the homeless crime binges. How about at your house, Mayor, when a homeless person showed up and you called the police station demanding they send cops over there to drag the person out of there? Or is RPD just making that story up? If the China flu scared you too much to do your jobs, you could have kept a shred of your integrity by just resigning. All 7 of you, hopefully you will. But you see, the best thing to come out of your complete failure to do your job during this past year is that the community learned you don't really do anything. You don't really accomplish anything. You don't really care about anyone but yourselves, and Reno would run incredibly better without all of you. Case in point, nobody out here can have a bottle of water this morning. You're loaded, snacks, water, and everything. Yeah, it says it all.
Thank you. Hope you have a wonderful day.
This is a reminder to the members inside of the room. There is no booing or additional sounds that should be made during comments, as that is their time. Bruce Parks, followed by Dwight George, followed by Everett George.
For the record, Bruce Parks, founder of Nevada Patriot, secretary for Battleborn Patriot. What I'm about to tell you is not simply my perspective, but the perspective of thousands of other people. I took an oath to the Constitution of this United States a long time ago to support and defend that Constitution. Same oath that every one of you took, and others in this room. On occasion, I put my life on the line to show my dedication to that oath. How did you people show your dedication to the oath you took? You caved to the current occupier of the governor's mansion when he came out with his unconstitutional, illegal edicts and mandates. You caved. You went along with the charade. Unbelievable. Why? Well, I suspect it had to do with fear and money. You were afraid that if you didn't go along with his unconstitutional mandates, that he would withhold money from the city of Reno. And, you know, you might be justified in that because he's a tyrant and a bully, and we know that he will retaliate if you don't toe the line according to his whims and wishes. Well, what did you do with all the vast dollars that you got from the state, you squandered it. You spent it on pet projects like that homeless shelter down there in the Governor's Bowl, which I predict will be completely abandoned in about 6 months because this city council refuses to do what's necessary to effectively address that problem. Enforce the law. Real simple. And it's not just the money that you got from COVID that you squandered. You squander our taxpayer dollars also. Y'all spend money like drunken sailors, which is not really fair to drunken sailors because they're spending their own money. You're spending ours. You know, I long for the day that I can come in here and I can look every one of you in the face and tell you, great job. You did really good. I hope you will afford me that opportunity in the foreseeable future. In the meantime, the oath of office that you guys took might as well have been written on toilet paper.
All right, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Dwight George, followed by Everett George, followed by Terry Brooks.
You better, not better.
Reno City Council. There's no denying or hiding what anyone can see. There's a clear crisis in this area, and you only need to look outside to see its impact. People forced out on the streets and into the shelters until they cannot hold anymore, then pushed into the parks or the overpasses or by the river. Until then, these areas are too taken away from them. And where is left to go after that? The people coming into these areas are not some kind of invasion, some kind of outside force coming into our city. This is our fellow citizens, your fellow community members being forced out of their homes with nowhere else to go, then told to go somewhere else anyway. There is a pandemic still going on. Unemployment numbers are still high with the cost of living continuing to go up and minimum wage staying the same. Affordable housing is getting harder and harder to find while places that literally call having some place to live a luxury continue to be built. The houseless numbers continue to gain, which means that your people are losing more and more. These people are being denied the basic needs being part of a good community should afford while being forced to have nowhere to go but to its streets. No matter the agenda, the planned topics, the discussions meant to take place, I don't believe that this council can call itself a representative of the people, a voice for the people, while just today more of us that you've been elected to represent continue to lose due to its decisions. And it seems like the only continued action that is consistently chosen is to hide what it does not want to face. The continued forceful removal of our houseless population from any kind of area, no matter how sparsely populated, uninhabited, or out the way it is just a way to continue to not have them seen and not to have them heard as well. There are numerous excuses for the sweeps, such as safety concerns or local complaints, but much of this is simply choosing one life over another, and sometimes even simply choosing someone's comfort or a property's value over someone just fighting day to day to live. How can you claim to care for us if a certain economic standard is needed to give your support, to be counted as someone that really matters? There are also a lot of excuses when these flaws are pointed out, like the people can simply go to a shelter when this has been proven time and time again as a blatant lie. Even as of last night, before the sweep that took place today, most shelters were full. Our place, the Women's Family Shelter, is full, and the CARES campus for women's and couples was full, with only a few spots left for single men. No more convenient lies should be used to cover up ugly truths. Being denied reliable and secure shelter is ugly. Being denied access to food or clean clothing or basic hygiene products is ugly. Not being able to go anywhere without being seen as a danger, inconvenience, or virus is ugly. Having this much of your people hurting and doing nothing about it is ugly. And no amount of pretty luxury condos will cover that up. If this is your city and we are all your people, you're failing us.
Thank you.
Everett George, followed by Terry Brooks, followed by Frank Schenk.
It's not going to get much lighter. Yes, my name is Everett George. I'm with the People's Solidarity Program, and I'm here to address the houseless issue that is going on. There are plenty of houseless people around. We see them. They're out there, and there's been an attempt to equate sweeping with also helping them, which doesn't make sense. I've been out there when the sweeps have occurred. I've been out there when the police have been doing the enforcement jobs, and there isn't any help when they get there. They tell them they need to leave. There are people that they can quote unquote talk to, but they weren't even there at the one that I was into. They had to go get them to bring them down for the social work that they say is available for them. So that whole time we were helping people move, we were helping them get their supplies to where they need to go. And the police, the people that were there to quote unquote help, they were standing around. They offered trash bags at best, and everything else was left to us. I know that enforcement is easy. I know that enforcement is convenient, but it is not the way to do it. You can't, enforcement shouldn't be the baseline, the number one top help. You should have care, you should have compassion. These are people that have nowhere else to go. These are people that have nothing else to do. I can reiterate what my brother said about the shelters, about them being open, about them being available, but that is not the truth. It's an easy answer, and it is not a solution. We need more. We need help. You can't keep trying to tell people to go somewhere when it's not there. It doesn't make any sense. I am an employee at a youth shelter. I help youth that are also dealing with these kind of things. I have lived with parents that deal with these kind of things, and that sort of enforcement, that sort of strict line, that sort of quote unquote following of the law it contains no compassion whatsoever. It affects everybody. It affects them. It affects their children. I've dealt with them, kids, like it's a virus that seems to just trickle down. Goes through the bloodlines. It's hereditary. Once you don't choose to stop displaying compassion, then that just creates more of a problem. We can't have this constant enforcement. We can't have these constant things where the law is the only thing that we care about, okay? Of course, the law is the law, but also these are people. These aren't products. These aren't inconveniences. These are humans that need care and they need hope. We need to give them more hope. They don't have that. Telling them you just need to get out of here, that's no way to help anything. So we ask that you have that kind of care for them. You give them that hope. You give them something that they can actually depend on so they don't feel like they're less than human, which is what we're made to make them feel now. Thank you.
Thank you. What's your name?
Everett George.
Everett. Are you at the Eddy House?
No.
Okay.
I work on a reservation.
Oh, good. Okay. Thank you, Everett.
Terry Brooks, followed by Frank Schenk, followed by Ron Trevor.
Good morning. I've said that unaffordable housing was usually the first link of the homelessness chain. And once a person's home is lost, it's something very difficult to regain. And if you wind up homeless, another result of that transition is to enter a lifestyle without proper nutrition. It's hard to eat healthy food when you can't afford to buy it. And being without a home or a kitchen can result in an unhealthy diet, which can then lead to finding yourself in poor health, which can then lead to suffering from poor mental health. And if you're a homeless child with poor health and poor nutrition, and with poor mental health, it's hard to get an education. Such circumstances also make it hard to get employed when it's homeless people that some employers might avoid. This coronavirus has increased the problem of homelessness and has put so many people in situations of distress. The coronavirus caused unemployment, which started the chain all over again. Many who lost their jobs lost their health insurance and lost their homes that they were living in. Again, this led to hunger, which has then led to poor health, which again has also led to poor mental health. And with so many schools now in such an awkward situation, it has had a poor effect on children's education. When so many schools were closed and children had to stay at home, Some parents had to quit their jobs to be with their kids at home. I'd like to thank the city of Reno for all that they have done, especially after all these problems have grown since the coronavirus had begun. Lately, I've been spending more time in areas of homelessness so I can try to learn some more about these problems and how to address. I would like to thank you all for listening to me again. And by the way, I'd like to say it's good to see all of you again. Thank
Jerry,
you.
it's so nice to
very
see
much.
you.
Thank you.
It is. It's nice to hear you again. And,
And
see
I've
you
been
in
looking
person.
into this situation a lot, so I got a lot more to say, but I got to take everything one little step at a time.
We all do, right?
Thank you.
Okay, good. Then we'll see you every Wednesday, my friend.
Okay. Every single Wednesday?
Every other Wednesday. But you can come every Wednesday if you want.
Frank Schenk, followed by Ron Trevor, followed by Megan O'Farrell.
Hi, council members. My name is Frank Schenk. Real quick, Mayor Sheevy, I'd like to thank you for providing mental health for COVID during the time. That was great. Anyway, we adopt a little boy at 9 months. He's 13 now, and it's been a really hard time for us. And, you know, he's got mental health issues, autism, and it's really sad that in our state we rate 4th in the United States for services for young people. You know, we deal with West Hills, Northern Nevada. You know, I know that sometimes the Reno PD will come over and school police will take them to West Hills and they just, oh, there's nothing we can really do, you know, sorry, our beds are full, or just some excuse. What we need is a place, a facility that's not for profit. We need a state, city, county run a state run, similar like to VA hospital, because it's not working with that facility. It's not. They don't like to take violent, hard kids who are physical. I know numerous of times my son has been picked up from the Reno PD and school police and taken to Anyway, I'm just lost for words because
Take your time.
me and my wife have really struggled. And I reached out to Sheriff Balaam for help. I emailed and he never called back. And but anyway, I noticed that these homeless people, if you can help people, young people at a young age, and it would help prevent people from being homeless if you could provide some services for these young people. We tried to look into one facility that might be able to help our son, but it's $14,000 a month in Utah. You know, how can people afford that? Also, real quick, and special needs in Northern Nevada, when people want to move here, and I had to say, how's the services for people? You know, our son's got some issues. Everyone in says, think twice before moving to Reno, because it'll take you years to get services to help them out. Anyway, thank you for listening. Oh, by the also John Evans. Nope, they're for regular kids, but they won't take special needs children or autism. I want to thank these guys. They've been really professional, the school police, picking up a kid, but when they take them to a facility, we get called and we just pick them up because they don't want to deal with the aggressive children. All right, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm really grateful for you to be here today and be so brave. And we are working on a 24/7 facility that, like you talked about, nonprofit for mental health. It's really, really important to me. We shouldn't have to have our loved ones arrested to get them mental health services. So know that it's a big passion of mine, and I will reach out to you. Thank you.
Ron Trevor, followed by Megan O'Farrell, followed by Bridget Tevin.
Good morning. My name is Ron Trevor, and I'd like to thank Mayor Sheevy and the council for allowing me to speak this morning. And I can't tell you how good it is to be back. Your overhead's not working, so I'll just show you.
Oh.
I'm with SAVE.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm a representative of SAVE, which stands for the Senior Auxiliary Volunteer Effort. And we work with the Reno Police Department. And I'm here today to let you know that we are officially back. Due to COVID-19, we were on furlough from March 2020 until April 12th of this year, 2021. During the closure, we maintained contact with our members, and I'm happy to say there were only really a couple of very mild cases of COVID within our membership. SAVE currently's got 72 active members. We have another 5 in training, and there are 10 members that have not yet been vaccinated or fully vaccinated, so those 10 are not yet working. I've got the year-end figures for 2020, which are not very good because it only was 3 months, but we did manage to accumulate or to volunteer 8,353 hours, which represents a savings of $212,667 to the city of Reno. Some of the key areas that we had last year was 2,425 citizen contacts. We did 1,827 48-hour postings on abandoned vehicles, 456 school patrols. We had 89 handicap violations, citations given, 78 traffic surveys, and we managed to locate and report to Reno PD 8 stolen vehicles. That's what I've got for now. Any
That's
questions?
A lot. You've got a lot. You know I love these updates. So
Yes.
keep bringing them, and we're so glad that you're back.
Well, I'll be back actually next month to give you the second quarter numbers and then each quarter thereafter. So
Perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect. We're very fortunate to have you. You're
Thank you.
amazing.
Megan O'Farrell, followed by Bridget Tevin, followed by Kaylee Barnett.
Hi, everyone. Megan O'Farrell for the record. Thank you for having me today. I'm going to read a petition that's actually up on change.org that's been passed around to, I think, most everyone in this room, but just for those who haven't seen it yet. So we, those living with and without shelter on stolen Numu and Wasu territories, demand that the county treat all members of our community with dignity, respect, and access to low-income and affordable housing. At the 2021 point-in-time count, 780 people, a 69.9% increase over 2020, were counted as experiencing homelessness in Reno, Nevada. Although we know that count is not entirely accurate. We can expect the number of people experiencing housing insecurity, eviction, and homelessness to increase as we emerge from the pandemic and eviction protections are lifted. Nevada ranks worst in the nation for affordable housing, and in Washoe County, there's an estimated 25,000 unit shortage for low-income renters. We understand that the intersection between individual and community health and housing, however, our local and state officials fail to prioritize legislation, budgets, and subsidies that would fund low-income housing, preservation, and creation. Ahead of and amidst the phased opening of the Nevada Cares campus, on May 17th, Reno had begun a 10-week plan to sweep encampments across 11 zones along the Truckee River corridor. People did and do not yet have the option to access the Nevada Cares campus Safe Camp, though, a barrier many unhoused neighbors cited, advocates raised concern over, and city officials ignored. Instead of shelter options that meet people where they're at and without the resources promised, unhoused people are experiencing weekly traumatic displacement, the dismantling of their communities and support networks, loss of contact with under-resourced social workers, and the destruction of their property. They are met, too, with aggressive, dismissive behavior from law enforcement and the abject failure of city officials to reevaluate plans and policies based on their harmful realities. In response to this crisis, we demand A complete stop to the sweeps until the Nevada Cares Campus Safe Camp is fully open with promised mental health care, addiction counseling, transportation, and workforce development, and a stop to sweeps again if the Safe Camp becomes full. 2, funded transportation for unsheltered individuals and their belongings to the Nevada Cares Campus for those interested in using both the shelter and the Safe Camp. 3, a temporary camping location for unsheltered individuals, i.e. North Edison encampment, which is being swept right now. We are asking that, sorry, I lost my place, until the Nevada Cares Campus Safe Camp is fully open with facilities for hygiene and medical use, including toilets, sinks, showers, and clinics. Number 4, a countywide prioritization of sustaining and building transitional, affordable, and low-income housing. 5, the recognition of the Reno Houseless Union as a representative entity with a seat at the table in city and county planning decisions. And 6, an end to the police harassment and the reallocation of RPD and SPD cleanup funds to support social service, health outreach, and housing initiatives existing and created for the unsheltered community, and additionally to pay shelter staff a livable wage and provide employees with necessary training and support. We stand in solidarity with our neighbors who are being violently removed from Edison right now, and we ask that you stop the sweeps. We will be outside of City Hall occupying until these demands are met. Thank you.
Bridget Tevin, followed by Kaylee Barnett, followed by Adam Barrington.
My name is Bridget Tevnin. Thank you for having me be allowed to speak. So I echo the sentiment of Megan O'Farrell, and I am standing as well with the list of demands. We will continue to occupy City Hall until the sweeps are stopped and we begin discussing these demands. Like Megan mentioned, right now there are bulldozers
Bridget,
at North Edison.
Can you pull the mic up so that it's in, just so that we can make sure we get you on the recording? Thank you.
Sure. Right now, there are bulldozers moving people and their belongings at North Edison. It is supposed to be over 95 degrees today. There are over 60 people staying there right now. And as my friend mentioned, there's very limited availability at the shelters. Our count today is that our place for women is full. There's no available beds for couples or women at the Nevada Cares campus, and there are approximately 90 beds available for men. However, a complaint that's been raised there is that many are top bunks and inaccessible to people with disabilities. Yeah, so I just want all of us to take a reflection of that reality. And a lot of us have been out there every week with these people trying to help them answer the question, where do you go when there is nowhere to go? This is unacceptable. We talk about public health. What about this piece of the public's health and their well-being? I'll yield the rest of my time. Thank you. Bridget Tevnin.
Kaylee Barnett, followed by Adam Barrington, followed by Riley Smith.
Hello, my name is Kaylee Barnett. For the record, I have been a Reno constituent for over 6 years. I'm also a co-host on a radio show on KWNK Community Radio 97.7 FM, Mass Liberation Radio, which council members Jenny Breckis and Devin Reese have been a part of. I'm opposition in the sweeps of our unhoused neighbors. I'm here today before City Council and Mayor Sheevy to call an emergency agenda item to halt all sweeps, starting with Edison off of Mill Street, which is supposed to be swept today, and bulldozers, like my colleagues Megan and Bridget have said, are there right now. There have been sweeps at Gateway Park, Fisherman's Park, and under Wells Bridge in the past few months, where people have had to move in the past few months with no transportation, no place to go. A lot of those folks are really scared. I'm also representative of the People Solidarity Program, which is a mutual aid group, which I know Devin Reese has said that you are in favor of mutual aid groups. It has been not only traumatizing for our unhoused neighbors to be split up from their community and their families, but for mutual aid groups like the Reno Burrito Project, Reno Soup for the Soul, Puff Puff Pass with the Love, the People Solidarity Program, and among others I can list, it is killing mutual aid groups because we cannot help these people. We cannot no longer feed them and bring services to them, like laundry for the people who provides laundry for them. So if City Council today is supportive of mutual aid groups and supports of this bringing of community, like the Reno Burrito Project, it will halt all sweeps so we can continue to have contact with our unhoused neighbors. And like we said, we'll be occupying City Hall area until our demands are met. Thank you.
Adam Barrington, followed by Riley Smith, followed by Michael Carson.
Hello, my name is Adam Barrington, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the Reno houseless community. As you can see, I'm kind of wet from the sprinklers outside. We have a group of compassionate and brave advocates for the vulnerable outside demonstrating in opposition to the sweeps and the abuse of the Reno houseless community. And it is going to be around 100 degrees today, so this is going to make it more bearable, so thank you for that. With my partner, Kaylee Barnett, who just spoke, I founded the People Solidarity Program, and it is a mutual aid group devoted to providing needed resources to the houseless. And I want to emphasize before I go on that it's not a good thing that we have this proliferation of mutual aid groups. It's a sign of a decaying system. It's a sign that the state apparatus is not prepared to care for people. It's not prepared to provide for the community. That's a problem. Charity is not a good thing. Just wanted to emphasize that. The conversations that we have had since January of this year, when we visited shelters, camps, and the 10 cities, which have grown substantially during the COVID-19 pandemic, these conversations with our diverse community of houseless neighbors have been enlightening as well as horrifying. Horrifying because of the astonishing brutality that is experienced by our houseless neighbors on a daily basis. Incessant sweeps and police harassment, lack of toilets, showers, medical facilities, or adequate shelter. These are only a few of the constant hardships experienced by the most marginalized and vulnerable citizens of our city. And I also wanted to point out the fact that we have been referring to them as houseless because they have a home. They're not homeless. Their home is our home. Their home is Reno. So they are not homeless. They just lack a structure. They lack a house. They are houseless. That's a tangible problem that can be fixed. We need public housing. We need rent control. We need community health clinics, and we need a jobs and apprenticeship program. We need the sweeps to end. We need the police harassment of the houseless to end. We need compassion, mercy, and simple human decency. Basic human needs are not being met, and this is not only unacceptable, but immoral and reprehensible. Our demands are not radical. They are not astronomical. They are not unthinkable. All people are entitled to housing. All people are entitled to nutrition. All people are entitled to health care, meaningful employment, and dignity. Until these demands are met, we are prepared to use all peaceful means to oppose the terror that has been inflicted upon our neighbors in need. Thank you.
Riley Smith, followed by Michael Carson, followed by Gordon Gossage.
Morning, everyone. Some good stuff out there. My name is Riley Smith. I've been a Reno resident my whole life. Born Nevada native, so I got some scribbles and notes here. Let's see how I go here. With all these issues being addressed, I think they're all connected by humans' biggest motivator, money. Where's this money coming from that's going to fix all these issues? I'll tell you, and it's not from our wage taxes from the people working. It's printing of money, and we are also being taxed through inflation. And it's a result of bad monetary policies. I really like the Wells Bridge cleanup. I've seen the river get bad throughout my 10 years, plus exploring it with my dog and riding my bike throughout the river, all of it. And it's just gotten a lot worse. Although the solution that has been taken or has been taken over these 10 years is more of an out of sight, out of mind. Where will they go? Who's going to pay for it? Are they going to go back to the Sparks area? Is the puck going to be passed between Sparks and Reno? Just sort of kick the can further down the road? We have to think long term. I admit this is a tough problem, but we can't throw money at the problem. The problem is the money. As some Austrian economists say, fix the money, fix the world. We need to work. We as people, even me, we need to produce, not consume. We cannot rely on the government to fix our problems. It's about community. And I'm going to leave you with this quote from the sovereign individual. The people who use the state welfare system the least pay the most for it. The people who use the system the most pay the least. Thank you.
Michael Carson, Gordon Gossage, followed by George Postroy.
My name is Michael Carson, and I'm speaking on behalf of all of our houseless and vulnerable relatives and neighbors in this community who do not have an opportunity or a platform to share their experiences. I've been doing outreach here in the city for over a year now and have seen firsthand just how unsustainable the tactics that are being used to address the houseless problem in the city are. As my friends mentioned, we're getting daily reports on the status of beds at different shelters, and often they're coming back either full or just with limited capacity for single men, and we're receiving lots of reports of a lot of unrest and kind of chaos because of overcrowding problems already, which really speaks to the need for more support, for better trained staff, for a lot more staff at these shelters. And for that to actually look like a really sustainable solution. And when we were told about this shelter, it was also described as a breezeway for people to come and get support so that they could move on to low barrier and transitional housing, and that's just doesn't seem like it's in place, and there's absolutely like no reports of that kind of framework and system in place to really help people keep moving. It's more of just corral them here so that we don't see them is what seems like it is happening, and we know that's just not stable. And as far as the safe camp goes too, that is also sounds very problematic because it's not up to the people with the power to decide what is safe for people who hold multiple marginalized identities. That's for the people with those identities to decide. And for us and for the people who have that power to say this is a safe place is also really a red flag for me. I work with a lot of people in my coaching business who hold multiple marginalized identities. And in order for trust to exist, it's something that I have to build with them over time through rapport, through building respect, and having a plan in place when that safety is fractured on how to repair that so that I can continue to like hold this safe container to support people most effectively and to address all of their needs. And I can see that's just not in place, that system is not in place, and people are not trained to create a safe environment or have the authority to say what is safe for these people. It's up to them to decide that. And I think until better systems are in place and we have actually a place for folks to go that does feel safe for them, that the sweeps need to stop, and we'll be occupying outside until that demand is met. Thank you.
Gordon Gossage, followed by George Postroy, followed by Christine Gomez.
Good morning. I'm Gordon Gossage with Regenerative Reno. And, no one on the planet will ever forget the contradictions of our reactions to COVID. You know, some thoughts and feelings were very disconcerting. Others inspired us to help relieve suffering and help each other flourish in ways and with an intensity never seen before. So can the post-COVID world include a new mix of thoughts and feelings and actions? I'm happy to participate in this first in-person conversation with all of you, the 7 of you, since March 2020. And I'd like to describe an opportunity we began at our company in the spring. Our client owns 100 acres just east of DRI and TMCC on both sides of Dandini Boulevard. And at Regenerative Reno, we're working with La Jolla Cove investors to increase the value of their property. And La Jolla is not a developer. They identify land, they buy it, and they hold it for years. They're under no pressure either to sell it outright or to enter a joint venture with a developer. The property will just remain 100 acres of dirt until the developer is identified and the approval process begins, as you know. And often this process starts with a tentative plan review by staff, electeds, and members of the public. For all not working with the developer, this is often the first time others have seen that the land will be developed. In very rare cases around the world, the regenerative design process is used. Unlike other process designs, the first step is community and stakeholder engagement by those who own or control the site. In the case of La Jolla's 100 acres, stakeholders include owners and residents of nearby property at UNR, TMCC, the RTC, Sun Valley to the east in the county jurisdiction, and all within the city jurisdictions to the northwest and south. And other stakeholders, including some of my friends in the housing activist movement, include many of our neighbors and organizations beyond the property lines. To the extent possible legally, regenerative design and development calls for active participation by the 7 of you very early in the process. And I don't mean just these 100 acres. The owner's goal is to increase the value of their land by minimizing the time and energy needed during the entitlement process. Now, Wood Rogers created a mixed-use scenario for 800 homes. Lumos has created 1,000 homes. And over the coming weeks, I really want to ask each of you and our other stakeholders to imagine a new community built from scratch with 2,000 new neighbors. If you could design a community, what would you want the experience for people living or visiting it to be? Can conflict be eradicated? No. Yet, can conflict be minimized? Absolutely. Cooperation, not conflict. Collaboration, not conflict. Co-creation, not conflict. Community building, not conflict. Let us begin. Thank you.
George Postroy, Christina Gomez, Maury Kavaz.
Good morning, members of the City Council and Mayor. My name is George Postrozny, and I'm here speaking as an individual, but I do participate in outreach to the tent camp communities, working with St. Vincent de Paul Society. I'm here to respectfully request the city manager, who I believe has the executive authority, to immediately suspend the sweep, and if the city attorney feels he lacks the authority, for the city council to convene an emergency meeting to do so. The reason I make that request is because I believe that, contrary to the representations made by the representative of the Downtown Partnership, who opened the open comments, the public comments this morning, as well as his opinion piece in the paper, the facts I experienced on the ground directly contradict his rose-colored view of what's happened. The stated rationale for the sweeps is a public health and safety reason. I believe that the sweeps instead, from what I've seen, the facts on the ground, aggravate the public health and safety problems because they disperse the public health and safety issues rather than reduce them. So, in fact, the stated rationale undermines the very action taken. The other negative consequence, of course, is the total destruction of the personal property of people that live in the tented communities. And the tents and whatever other shelters that they have been able to contrive in those locations are their homes. So shouldn't we work with what we have instead of destroy the tents and other positions they have? There's been a lot of discussion about the availability of the CARES campus, the Nevada CARES campus, but the Camp Safe program is not going to have its first tent site available until June 17th. And they will only be allowed to process 2 tent locations at a time, a day. So, and their initial allocation of sites available because of staffing limitations is 50 to 56 campsites. So even at its ultimate build out, if you will, they will only be able to absorb 50 to 60 people who will be bringing their tents over there. But if their tents are destroyed at in the meantime, or they're pushed out of where they are, they're just being dispersed elsewhere in the community, and the problem is not being solved. Their homes are being destroyed, and they have nowhere to put their tents right now. So until there's some place to put the tents, as the Change.org petition says, I believe that that should be suspended immediately. Thank you very much for your time.
Christine Gomez, followed by Maury Cabaz.
Good morning, Reno Council. It's definitely nice to be back in person. For those of you who do not recognize me, my name is Christine Gomez, and I'm the Nevada Purchasing Manager and General Manager of Jade Cannabis Co. here in Midtown Reno. I'm simply here to offer words of encouragement as Legislative Bill AB 341 was sent to the governor's desk this week. AB 341 was designed to create safe consumption lounges for cannabis. And while this bill is in motion as we speak, I want to offer up a good gesture that there are a lot of good people who are responsible standing behind this bill, who, like me, seek safe places to consume. With our current housing crisis, we're seeing people in our region more and more dependent on government resources to supplement rent. These federally funded programs simply will not allow cannabis consumption on their sites. You're not allowed to smoke in any public park. We have hundreds, if not thousands, of landlords here who just prefer to not be on their property. We created and passed laws that set the locals and tourists up for our state to consume irresponsibly. This is irresponsible capitalism. As an industry professional, we're seeing an uptick in tourism again, and while that's beautiful, there's really not any other response to offer to where can we consume this from a tourist. Other than that, in somebody's private home residence, which sounds great, but what about all of our tourists who come here who have no ties to Northern Nevada and are simply staying in a hotel? Cannabis is here, and we are one of the only industries who hasn't seemed to catch any break throughout this whole pandemic. Our taxes have helped our state more than most care to admit. Our medicinal options that each dispensary offer, providing healing and safe alternatives to getting blasted on a bottle. And I'm here to ask all of you to keep an open mind as this bill moves along. While it's not in our hands now, it's going to be in our hands. Let's keep the constituents, our visitors, and our local police forces safe and provide cannabis lounges to those around us. I know there are many moving pieces to this process, but as it hits a city level, I beg to you, keep an open mind. We're not all as dangerous as our stigma has branded us to be. I personally invite each of you to step inside Jade Cannabis Co. and ask for a tour. We'll show you around, show you a firsthand experience of what it's like every day there. Although I don't have all the answers, I do welcome all of your questions and shared concerns. I think we can definitely make resolutions together. I do want to give a special thank you to Councilmember Reese. He has been a huge tool for myself personally to navigate our local governments and provided critical guidance to me as somebody who is a young adult who doesn't really know the ins and outs of things. I can't tell you how many times it's been a Facebook message of like, crisis, help me, tell me where to go, who do I contact? So thank you for that. And thank you guys for all allowing us to speak in person today. I know we're gonna create big change. Thank you.
And Christine, just so you know, the city is working on understanding the legislation, and I think we'll be having future discussions about it. Make sure you grab my card over at the clerk's desk so that we can be in direct communication about it, because I think cannabis lounges are coming, so.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Our final general public commenter today is Maury Kabaz.
Good morning, Mayor, Council. Thank you for your sleepless nights during the COVID and now the post-COVID problems. I heard some of it. Things are bad out there. I can tell you that. My own experience, I was active supporting Biden, and things are bad. It's not the minorities now being persecuted. Democrats are now considered the socialist enemies of the country, and there's so many ways to violate them. I thank Police Chief. He seemed to be on the top of it, but city too. You need to be mindful of that. This is bad times politically, and it has a ripple effect. As far as my complaint, give you an update here. I have a full statement that I leave with the secretary. Since I have been communicating by fax and formally, you know everything about my case. The mayor is not here, but she knows too. Since fourth quarter 2020, the city officials supposed to be working on my case. I assume Mr. Hall and city, but I cannot get a confirmation on it. The only confirmation I had was from Police Chief Secretary Patricia, who said it, but wasn't formal. I just talked to the chief, and he said that he would find out for me, but this is an extremely serious case. It's a serious case. Right before COVID, the settlement insinuation was $5 million for a lifetime of abuse here. Racial profiling, financial crimes, lost my property of 28 years, my shop and everything. I'm 65 years old. It's been so bad, I don't even qualify for Social Security. We need to do this. I don't want to go to a reporter. I don't want to embarrass anyone. I have been very supportive. I don't give lip service. I think we have a good mayor, good chief, but please, if it hasn't been authorized, please authorize the monetary settlement and stop this creepy occult operation sabotaging. They cannot be the one running the city. This mafia occult, sadist people, they cannot be running the city. We have you, we voted for you, we supported you. Please, just be mindful, and the mayor is here. I ask you, please, the city's officials are supposed to be working on my case now, but I can't get a confirmation. Nobody even pick up the phone. Please, you were very good at the beginning. You had Chief Soto, you had Mr. Hall working on this, but now we need to get back to these creeps out of it, this operation out of it, so that please stay on it and make sure these creeps stay, they won't sabotage it, stay on it. I have a full statement, I leave it. Thank you very much, and welcome back.
Thank you. We'll follow up for sure. Nice to see you too.
Madam Mayor, with that, we have no further general public comment.
All right.
I do believe Councilman Reese had something
Go ahead,
quick to say.
Councilman Reese, go ahead. Did you have something?
Well, you can help me out, Madam Clerk. Do we have something additional that we want to chat about?
We are just noting the artwork that
Oh,
is
we already
behind
did,
council.
but happy to say it again. The artwork was provided by Dana Hart's first grade class at Jesse Beck Elementary School and honors our commitment to the Truckee River.
Thank you. Making sure we have that in the record. Madam Mayor, with that, we will transition to approval of your agenda. I'll send it over to City Manager Thornley for any changes that he may have.
Okay, sounds good. I'm going to send it right back to you, Mr. Thornley.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no changes to today's agenda, but before you take the microphone away from me, what I would like to do is recognize Frank Avera on behalf of BTS and Public Works, who worked so hard to get this room ready for all of us and keep us all safe today.
Good job, Frank. Don't you love that whenever he embarrasses you? Thank you. Yes. But thank you. No, good job.
All right, Madam Mayor, no
Second.
changes?
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. I have a motion, and I believe I have a motion from Councilman Reese, a second from Councilman Delgado. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay.
Madam
moving
Mayor,
right along.
approval of the May 12th minutes.
All right, may I get a motion? So moved. I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Madam Mayor, transitioning to your consent agenda, it should be noted there is no public comment on this item.
All right, thank you very much. At this time, before we vote on consent agenda, I am going to start with Councilwoman Breckus. I'm going to start to my far right with Councilwoman Breckus giving me some items to pull off the agenda.
I have none.
None? Okay, thank you. Councilman Reese. All right, Councilman Delgado.
Nothing.
All right, Councilwoman Jordan.
None.
Councilwoman Dewar?
No.
Councilwoman Weber? Nothing. Wow,
move to
that's a
approve.
first. That's a first, all right.
Second.
So may I get a motion to
moved.
to approve the consent agenda? I have a motion from Councilman Reese, a second from Councilman Delgado. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Wow. And a big, nice head nod from Ms. Koski over there. I love it. Okay, moving right along. Back at you, Madam Clerk.
Madam Mayor, with that, transitioning to item D1. This is an update on the 81st session of the Nevada Legislature.
All right, this is fantastic. I believe we will have
Callie Wilsey.
Is she here?
She is likely trying to move quickly from the 15th floor because council did such an efficient
I know,
job
right,
at consent. So with that, Madam Mayor, I will recommend that we just hop to, oh, she's here.
She's running in as we speak. We caught you off guard. All right, Callie, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. All right. Madam Mayor, members of the council, thanks for having me here today. It's nice to be in front of you in person with our final update on the legislative session. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Continuing the trend of my starting updates, we are 2 days past the legislative session. Session wrapped up late on Monday night with just a few minutes to go before the midnight deadline. The Assembly and Senate adjourned right around midnight on Monday night. Right now, we are tracking all of the bills that were sent to the governor. For the most part, the governor has about 10 days to sign those bills into law or make a different decision to veto or not sign them. So we'll be tracking those through the next 10-day period to understand what will eventually be impacted and our next steps in the process. So just to give us kind of a few takeaways of what I noticed throughout the 120-day process. A part of our legislative platform really talked about property taxes, and there was a limited and focused discussion on tax policies. In the final days of the legislative session, the legislature reached a deal with the mining industry on a new excise tax on gold and silver mine revenue, and those funds will be dedicated to education. But the other conversations that we had, the two tax policies or tax bills related to property tax and digital goods, which was related to sales tax, those bills died. As well as we know, our local bills related to property tax that we put forward through our BDRs. So we'll continue to talk with our legislators about the needs to, particularly on your property tax reform, but there was a big step related to mining taxes that occurred, but some limited discussion on other policies related to that. Another key takeaway that we're seeing from the local government level is there is going to be a lot of data collection and reporting that we will be required to do in the next interim. We are happy to provide that information to the state for the analysis that they need, but there will be an administrative impact as we figure out what those requirements are, what information we have available to us, and how we're going to report that. Additionally, we saw an opportunity in the interim for better local and state collaboration on local issues. We saw the state really kind of take up a few issues that we would normally say are the purview of local governments. And so I feel like there's an opportunity there for us to work with our state legislators in the interim on some of those issues that would impact us here locally. wanted to provide an update on a bunch of the bills that we had been tracking, and some of the themes that we are seeing, the buckets that we're seeing in here. Reno Municipal Court will need to make some substantial changes to the way it operates, assuming that these bills are signed by the legislature, or by the governor, in the next 10 days. But these are kind of four big ones. The Municipal Court, AB 42, explicitly allows municipal courts to hold jury trials for certain domestic violence cases. And while we had already taken steps prior to the legislative session to allow that, this bill also requires a jury of 12 in most cases, and when we did the construction in our courtroom, it was for 6. So we'll be looking to figure out how to accommodate for that need. AB 116 is the decriminalization of traffic violations. Again, this will likely lead to a cost, as we have to the court system will need to update its case management system to reflect those changes, to not be misdemeanors but civil citations. AB 424 relates to pretrial release hearings and bail. This bill will require those hearings to be held within 48 hours of arrest. So again, that turnaround time could lead to additional costs depending on how that is operated, to ensure that we're in compliance with making sure we hold those pretrial release hearings. Senate Bill 219 is another one that we would consider major, that's going to impact our court system, that prohibits us from the court from suspending a driver's license for the inability to pay their fines or fees. So that tool or that motivator that sometimes got people to pay an outstanding fine or fee will not be a tool in that toolbox any longer. Similarly, in the criminal justice reform, there are bills that will impact law enforcement. AB 186 prohibits law enforcement from requiring quotas around traffic violations, not requiring a certain number of issues or certain number of arrests or certain number of citations. It's not something that RPD does currently, so we don't anticipate a change in operation, but it's now something in state law. AB 220 requires a policy for use of mobile devices for peace officers, including details around what applications are approved for use, and those applications cannot use end-to-end encryption or other means to avoid creation or retention of records. AB 396 revises the definition of threat to include the word imminent when we're talking about the use of deadly force. So it just revises that definition and adds the word imminent in there. AB 440 requires a peace officer to issue a misdemeanor citation for a repeat offense rather than take the person into custody. Right now, a peace officer has discretion over what to do in many of these instances. This bill lays out that they must issue the citation rather than take them into custody, except for certain instances and certain violations. We've talked about SB 50 on no-knock warrants before, as well as SB 212, which requires de-escalation methods, as well as we will need to update our policy around use of force. And it includes limitations on use of restraint chairs and responding to demonstrations. Lastly on this list is SB 236, which requires an early warning system to identify bias indicators for peace officers and requires additional supervision or training if something comes up through that system. The bill also has a provision that will require traffic stop data collection. Unclear exactly how that process will work. It will be promulgated at the state level to figure out how that process will work. As we also heard in public comment a little bit ago, cannabis was a topic at the legislative session this year. AB 341 was referenced earlier, and this authorizes consumption lounges. There was a last-minute amendment to this bill that allows for the Cannabis Compliance Board to allow or to create regulations to allow for public consumption. And our understanding with folks that were talking about this is the intent is to allow for cannabis events. The bill that we had talked about previously that would have authorized cannabis special events died in the process, and this was a way to allow that to occur. Local governments, us included, worked with the sponsors on the very last day, kind of in the last hours, to get an amendment in there that will allow local governments an ability to have stricter regulations and ensure that if events are coming down, that we can make sure that they go through our special events process. AB 326 authorizes a city attorney to bring civil action to a person who does not hold a cannabis license, but cultivates or transfers, manufactures, sells cannabis products. AB 400 removes the specified amounts of marijuana in an individual's blood when determining impairment. The final version maintains there is the per se amount that was left in code for incidents that result in death. And that was a big conversation related to DUIs on that bill. SB 168, this one has been signed, will allow for curbside pickup of cannabis. There is a provision in there that will allow us to make sure that if they go through zoning and planning regulations, to make sure that there are no issues with drive-throughs or curbside pickup. And SB 278 also discusses excise tax exemptions for certain facilities when the transfer occurs between the same owner in different portions of that process. A series of bills related to planning and zoning. We've talked a lot about these. Electronic submissions of maps has been sent to the governor. AB 87 and SB 138 are all optional ordinances for local governments related to simplified procedures of either abandonments or minor modifications of PUDs. The NDOW tentative map review bill moved on to the governor as well. AB 363, just to provide a final update to council on this one, does not include cities outside of Clark County. There was an additional exemption to exclude smaller cities within Clark County as well. That bill went to the governor as well. SB 150 is the tiny houses bill that we've talked about. And SB 297 is the last one that I have on this list that authorizes cities and counties to adopt ordinances allowing for vacant or blighted city land or other real property for the purposes of community gardens or urban farming. When we talk about housing, there are two bills that I wanted to flag today. One was a priority at the end. AB 486 talks about COVID eviction processes and rental assistance. It does several things. Requires a court to stay the eviction proceedings if a tenant files for rental assistance, and requires the court to dismiss the proceedings if the rental assistance is granted. It also allows a tenant or a governmental entity administering that program to file a claim for fraudulent eviction against a landlord if the landlord received rental assistance and evicted the tenant. The bill requires proceedings for eviction, except for those related to nuisances and the sale of property, so we're talking about the inability to pay, is to be stayed in order to facilitate mediation programs. And the bill establishes a procedure for landlords to apply for that as well. We saw a problem with some of the rental programs where it had to be the tenant applying. And so this bill also sets up that the landlord can now apply for that rental assistance on behalf of tenants in the hopes of ensuring that as these eviction proceeding or as the eviction moratoriums are listed and we have those, the money available through the federal government, that those requirements and additional safeguards are in place. And SB 12 is one we have talked about previously. Talks about notification to tenants as well as local governments as affordable housing projects expire in the hopes of it gives us time to see if we can save those affordable housing projects. Lastly, financial and economic development related bills. AB 86 was a bill that we supported around recovery of fire expenses. It allows a city to bring core action to recover expenses incurred while extinguishing a wildfire that was willfully or negligently caused. AB 153 allows a local government to use cost savings from performance contracts on energy, water, and waste contracts to reinvest those in other cost savings measures, and aligns with our sustainability efforts. AB 368 is the bill we've talked about most recently related to star bonds. This has the authority to create a new local tourism improvement district will expire January 1 of this year. On the very last day, there was an amendment to this that exempts Clark County related to that. So Clark County and the municipalities down there will be able to maintain the tourism improvement districts, but they cannot use them for stadium projects. And our next steps as we wrap up, so while the 120 days are up, the work isn't over yet. So next steps that I've got on my list, we will be providing a more detailed report for council in a written form on outcomes of the bills tracked and how those relate to the platform that you guys adopted. So we'll make sure to get those to you once we know what was signed and what will officially be enacted. We'll also be doing debriefings with departments to go over the bills that impact them, developing the plans and the timing for those. And we're planning for the interim period. We know that there are interim studies that will be occurring, such as the Innovation Zone study by the governor, and when should we participate in that and what that process will look like. As well as we're seeing a change in how the interim for the legislator will work. They passed a bill that will changes the way that most of the committees that operate in session will continue to operate during the interim and continue their work. So it'll look slightly different for us this year, and we'll be participating in those. We need to follow and participate in the regulatory process. Many of the bills that we were tracking allowed for regulations to be created at the state level. And so, we've talked about cannabis a little bit today. That's one of them, understanding what those rules will be and on us. The bill related to water pollution for diffuse sources is another one, and how that impacts our stormwater system, as well as the law enforcement traffic stops reporting process. And we also are keeping an eye out for special sessions. We know that they will need a special session for redistricting, and unclear what the process will be, whether they will need a special session for the use of their federal dollars at the state level. So be watching those as well, and if any other topics come up, if special sessions are called. So there's only 614 days until the next regular session in between the interim. I hope I did my math right there. But I just want to say thank you, Council, for supporting me through this first session, and City Manager Thornley for the opportunity to represent the city. And for all of our staff who's listening out there, just shout out to you. This process is really important to get their feedback, and they were great and picked up my phone calls and answered all my silly questions to make sure I understood the implications on our operations. So thanks to everybody out there. With that, I will take questions.
All right, fantastic job. You did a phenomenal job, and your first go of it too. So, and very hard to navigate when you're not in person, and it's just very, very different. So you did a phenomenal job. Okay, I'm going to go over to Councilman Reese.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, Ms. Wilsey, thank you so much for your work. It was a long and complicated session, lots of pitfalls and false starts, and you really handled yourself with a lot of grace, and I appreciate that. I know that there were many times where we were just sort of trying to figure out what was going to happen next. So thank you for your ability to kind of pivot, be flexible. I know that our bills were not successful, but I think we sort of knew that going into it. But we wanted to start some conversations, and those conversations can continue, I think, not only during the interim session, but as we navigate relationships with those legislators. There's a lot of change coming to the legislature in the next couple of years because a number of leaders, including our own local, Teresa Benitez Thompson, has termed out. A number of other senators, I think, have termed out or are not running. So lots to be moving forward and lots of moving parts. I want to ask about two things, and maybe a third if I get time. First is AB 116 about the decriminalization of traffic violations. So certainly I appreciate and was supportive of the bill in my own private capacity, but I want to understand to the extent that I have not looked carefully at our municipal court budget recently, what percentage of our budget is derived from the revenue that's generated by tickets. And I guess my hope is, and if you don't have to know off the top of your head, I'm not asking for that, but obviously I am supportive of the bill. I just want to make sure we're prepared to deal with the economic consequences of the bill. And so if there are economic consequences to it, it's our obligation then to deal with that reality. And so perhaps in the coming weeks, you and Ms. Lochner can get together and help me understand more about that, because I do think it's important, because I don't entirely understand. I assume there are still fines and different kinds of financial implications to those things happening. They just aren't going to result in revocations and warrants being issued, and perhaps Mr. Hall will be able to guide that conversation as well. So that's the first thing. Second is as to AB 341, which is the cannabis consumption lounges. Our city staff, and I've asked, and I know that it is something being discussed, is likely going to be needing to work on these things sort of in real time. Obviously, the bill is likely heading for signature. If it hasn't already been, I can't remember. It's hard to keep up with. But I am someone who, even 2.5 years ago when I first joined this body, as we discussed our own local issues involving licensure, was looking ahead to cannabis lounges. And we basically, as a body, made the choice to delay a real in-depth discussion about it because we knew or anticipated that that was coming legislatively. And so as we get there, I want us to make certain that as a city, we're being very proactive in how we approach it. And Mr. Manager, I don't know if you and Ms. Bryant have been thinking about the way in the path forward, but I don't necessarily, I'm not someone who wants to be sitting around 2 years from now saying, what are we still waiting on or doing? I think it's an important component of the overall issues involving cannabis, and so I'll leave it at that. And then perhaps I'll come to the third one on my second pass.
Councilmember Reese, great questions, and I'll just quickly respond. To 116 on the budget, the first, the bill as introduced caused us a lot of concerns around the fiscal impact. The original bill had any fees and fines collected going to the state rather than staying with the local jurisdiction, and that got changed in the final one. So that was a big change, as well as there was some additional tools added into the final version of the bill in conversations with Mr. Tuttle at the municipal court that he thinks will help be able to collect the civil fines and fees, such as the ability to use text messaging to encourage people, and that's allowed under 116. So from the fees and fines perspective, he's thinking our collections will remain the same. It was about $100,000 in warrants that we anticipated losing. And then the initial kind of startup cost to change everything was about, I think it was $200,000.
Well, Ms. Wilsey, my point is not that we should be collecting revenue. I think there's a whole political or policy debate about that. I don't believe it should be a way to generate revenue. I think it's an enforcement tool that is a necessary component sometimes of public safety or of parking, that kind of thing. But I want to just make sure that I'm on the record as saying I support the bill and also understand that there would be financial implications. If there are financial implications, I want to know what they are as we work to address a hole in the budget. Not that we would try to recoup those in some other way or pass them on to the citizens. It is just a strange, curious situation. I think the bill as passed does provide a lot of protections for folks who are certainly in different economic situations. It sort of addresses a targeting of folks in a racial and inequitable way, and also it stops some of the issues involved with immigration that arise out of minor traffic infractions. So good bill. I just want to make sure we're prepared for it. I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. We'll provide additional details in that final report to council related to that. And then on 341, I'm reaching out to the Cannabis Compliance Board for an initial discussion to understand their timing, their process, with the goal of trying to align our updates in code to go along so we can be ready at the appropriate time.
All right, Councilwoman Breckus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you, Ms. Wilsey, for your service. You're always very responsive when I had questions, and I know it was an unusual session, but I think you did a good job. Disappointed our bills didn't advance, but we learn, and I know there's a lot of work to go. I just have questions about or a lot to be done in the interim, and hopefully, we can have a consistency of focus during that period. The two that I have, and I don't have the numbers about, wasn't there a bill, I know it's of concern to some of the outlying suburban neighborhoods when we did our zoning code. Wasn't there a bill about construction hours that would have impacted planning and zoning? Did that advance, that bill?
Callie Wilsey for the record. There was a bill that would have required limitations on construction hours for projects like with the city. That changed to just for HOAs. So HOAs can't, must restrict hours similar to if a local government has an ordinance for construction hours. It can't be more strict than those.
Okay, that's an interesting one. And then I know there was one that came in late. I talked to you about it, and it was about home births or birth centers. Was that more? Did that pass? And was that more licensing, or did it have a planning zoning component to it?
I believe I'll have to take a closer look at the details of what specifically was in there. It did pass and get sent to the governor.
It
though.
did.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilwoman Dewar.
Thank you. Again, Kelly, you did do a really great job. You know, I attended a lot of those Friday briefings, especially in the beginning, and you were always right on the money. I just had two questions. I think you addressed it, but just briefly again, the NDOW bill about wildlife. Could you just walk us through that real quick, where that ended up, if at all?
Absolutely. So starting January 1st is when that bill will become effective. NDOW, we will be required to send our tentative maps to NDOW and for them to provide comments on the impacts to wildlife based on what they see in those proposals.
I think that's a critical bill, and I actually had hoped that we would prioritize that in our, you know, we looked at what we need to prioritize in our Title 18 updates, but we may need to do, in response to that, put something in our Title 18 to require that, you know, to require it on our side, so we make sure that applicants do that. So that's just a thing to check in with our staff on. I think that will really help us get to some better projects now that we're working so much at the margins where the wildlife mostly is, right? It's not usually in a downtown Reno or even in a suburban neighborhood, but it's more at the edges. So thank you on that. The other comment I had was on the recreation bill, one of our two bills. I do hope that we will try again on that. I really think that we need to start much earlier. We have a year and a half to meet with people, talk them through what we need to do to support our parks and recreation. It was, again, the number one thing in our Reimagine Reno was people outdoors. And that COVID reinforced that. I think the legislature just had a lot on their plate and didn't fully understand what we were after, which was permission to convene a working group to recommend some funding opportunities and put those on the ballot for the people to decide. I recently had an opportunity to meet with our Parks and Recreation staff. They're updating our parks plan, and they identified some other deficiencies that need legislative change. And I think that we should have a master bill that includes the ballot initiative. It also addresses the $1,000 a door for the RCT. That has not been updated since the 1980s. There's not changed. I think it should change, and we should add a CPI to that so that that goes up and we don't have to keep addressing it. So I think that should be addressed. And there were a couple other issues where the legislature, for example, RCT can't be used for pools or rec centers. Why? You know, so there's some things that, and there's like 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 that I talked to them again. I just want to take up a lot of airtime here, but I do think we should do a comprehensive bill to address parks and recreation and start working on it early. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Councilman Reese.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I had a third item, but I was talking too much. I want to ask sort of about the special session. We anticipate 1 or 2 of them, is that what you said?
Yes.
And I anticipate then that the one that is regarding redistricting is tied to when we receive census data as a state, which will not be until after or late October. So it's my understanding that we're looking at a special session perhaps as early as Nevada Day weekend. And so in that special session, it'll be limited topic-wise. Is that accurate?
Yeah, the governor will have the ability to set in his proclamation what topics will be covered in any special session. We are expecting one on redistricting. Never know if additional topics will be added, but we would know going into it. And then the other one is related to the federal funding.
Finances. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right, any further questions? No? Okay, well, good job. We appreciate it. So I'm just going to ask council, can I please get a motion to accept her report?
Motion.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Good job.
Madam Mayor, with that, transitioning to item E1. This is an ordinance introduction. The bill will be read by the city attorney.
All right, we will send it over to the ever-so-famous Carl Hall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ordinance introduction, Bill number 7176, ordinance concerning the City of Reno, Nevada 2021 Special Assessment District Number 2, Stonegate 1, and assessing the cost of local improvements against the assessable property benefited by the local improvements and providing other matters related thereto.
All right, thank you so much. We have a staff presentation. Ms. Lochner, take it away.
All right. Good morning, Mayor, council members. Nice to see you, Mr. Thornley. So what we have in front of you today is the assessment ordinance for the Stonegate project. As you recall, you'll see the adoption of the creation ordinance is your next item.
Good job.
What we have right is we've been through the background on this. In August of 2018, the developer came in with an outline of what they were proposing for their project. And then in February of 2019, the council approved a deposit and reimbursement agreement so that staff could pursue I guess, the technical aspects of forming a district, assessing the properties, and then issuing a bond. On March 10th, council approved the development and financing agreement, which outlines the rules of the development for projects that will be reimbursed under a future bond. And then on April 28th, council held the first, they adopted the resolution and held the first reading of that creation ordinance. So it's complicated. So what we are in front of us today is an ordinance that levies the assessments on the properties within the special assessment district. Those assessments are based on the benefits that each property receives from the improvements that are financed through the bond. And then the assessments are used to pay the debt service on the bonds that are issued to help finance the project. The benefits of that is that assessing the properties within the SAD will provide for those debt service payments, so that's important. We can pay them with the assessments. The tax-exempt bonds which will be used only for public infrastructure, do reduce the cost of conventional financing, and that reduction is for the whole project is somewhere between $16.7 and $44.2 million in interest costs, and that's really, it's a sliding scale because we really don't know where the bond is going to close at this point, but we do know what construction costs are. So staff is recommending that council conduct the first reading of the creation ordinance and refer it for a second reading.
All right, good job. Before we do that, Madam Clerk, and I'm so sorry, I don't think I asked you, do you have any public comment on this item?
Madam Mayor, we did receive public comment, however, it was late from Garrett Gordon on behalf of Lifestyle Homes in support of this item that is being submitted to council and will be included in general closing public comment as it was received after 4 p.m. yesterday.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, go right ahead.
What is it?
Can you read the letter, Madam Clerk?
Normal process for that, Madam Mayor, would be council would need to take a motion in order to suspend your rules and then take a motion in order for me to read that in to the record.
Okay, I will then make a motion to suspend the rules. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, go take it away, Madam Clerk. It's all you.
All right, Madam Mayor, reading into the record, letter received from Garrett Gordon. Dear Mayor Hillary Sheeby and honorable city council members, this office represents Lifestyle Homes, who owns approximately 440 acres of property located south of the Stonegate development. TND, which is known as Lifestyle Homes, is currently processing the Train Crest Planned Unit Development Handbook on the TND property and in an effort to bring additional missing middle housing into the Northern Nevada market. TND supports the proposed Stonegate Special Assessment District, which will result in the construction of certain sanitary sewer and water projects throughout the Stonegate development and immediate vicinity. The sizes and dimensions of these improvements are critical for continued growth in the North Valleys. Accordingly, we respectfully ask that council approve item F1. Madam Mayor, this is item E1 that we are on, however, they are interrelated, so we will note that for the record.
All right, thank you very much. The reason I did ask you is I did not see that in my email, my correspondence, so I appreciate that. Oh, it came in during the meeting, that's why. Okay. Thank you. Okay, back on track. Go ahead. Nothing? Okay. Go ahead, Councilman Breckus.
Thank you. Ms. Lochner, now, last week, we adopted this community benefits agreement with the Stonegate developer. And I just wanted to follow up on that as related to this bond placement. I thought I heard two different concerns. One was that that agreement has no relationship to this bond issuance. Is that correct from your perspective?
That's correct.
But recital G of that agreement says that for construction of the Stonegate development this is an inducement to approving the initial issuance to finance projects within or benefiting phase 1. So it says in those recitals, it's an inducement. That agreement was an inducement to taking this action today. And I just wanted to clarify how you saw that.
So from my perspective, the council made that connection, not the finance department.
Okay, so that's interesting because, obviously the legal department wrote this, the manager and and staff prepared this for us, and it is seen as an inducement. Is your bond counsel here today?
No.
Okay, I wish he was, because I had asked about that last week, and I wanted to ask him these questions about the relationship of that inducement to this action. Has he reviewed the inducement agreement that the council adopted last week, and has he given you an opinion on it?
I haven't asked him for an opinion on it.
Okay, he has not talked to you about it? He's unaware of it?
He's aware of he is aware of the agreement, yes.
Did he opine on it at all? Okay, but he's still comfortable, and you're comfortable with having gone through this bond placement, the underwriting, the analysis, and then having this side agreement?
So the side agreement really doesn't have anything to do with the work that I have been doing to bring this forward. That was a connection made by the council, wanting to make sure that if we used this tool, that the council got something for that. That was what I heard in council meetings, and that's what then sent us off and delayed this actual item by a couple months.
Well, I'll ask the manager and the attorneys, since we don't have our bond counsel here who we hire for this specialized. You're comfortable that this comports with the because we're issuing bonds, securities, and you're comfortable that the inducement does not take us sideways on that?
I am. As I read the agreement, the obligation to issue bonds is not tied up in that agreement. You're not affirmatively obligated to issue those bonds. The worst thing that happens if the council decides to go in a different direction today is that there's no community contribution as lined out in that agreement.
But we were induced to take this action today in relationship to what they offered up in that agreement. That's
I
how,
think
correct?
that we're induced to, consider this action today. And again, if the council decides to go in a different direction, then what would happen is that agreement would effectively be null and void. There'd be no obligation on behalf of Stonegate to make the donations that they said that they were going to make to the community. I think the important part, and the thing that's important for the record, is that none of the bond issuance will go to support that contribution, and that is the issue that bond counsel would have reviewed, and that's the issue that Ms. Lochner is reporting on from the perspective as the finance director.
Okay. How do we know that?
because we've told them that none of the bond issuance can go in that direction, and it needs, the bond will be a reimbursement.
Reimbursement,
program, right?
uh-huh.
That's
They will
outlined-
build and we will reimburse.
Right, that's outlined in the DFA.
But
that
how do we,
already approved, that they can only be reimbursed for discrete components as built and accepted by the agencies.
but if they sell the property, don't they have to clear the debt?
Well, if there are assessments on that, they remain with the property.
Okay, okay. My next question, and I'll pass it around.
Councilman
Okay, sure.
Breckus, hold on a second.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council members before I go back to Councilman Breckus? I just want to make sure we're not skipping over anyone. Oh, go ahead, Councilman Reese, and then I'll go back to Councilman Breckus.
No problem. We were trying to figure out this system again and remember how to use it. No hands being waved or raised. Ms. Lochner, thank you for the time that your office has put into this and working with bond counsel, with the manager's office. I think it's a policy question for me. It's about whether or not the use of special assessment districts is appropriate and whether those should be used in the type of bonding capacity relationship that we're about to enter into, I hope. I'll be supportive ultimately of the referral. I was supportive last week of a very different agreement, and it was an agreement between the developer, who I think is here today, and is an acknowledgement of the sort of the relationship between the city and the developer. And so I'm not sure I understand most of the questions my good colleague from Ward 1 has asked. I don't know why they're related. I've made a policy choice about why I think these are a good tool to use and why they can be used in appropriate circumstances. It took us a long while to get there, right? It had to, 2.5, almost 3 years. As the person who sits on the financial advisory board for the city, it had to go through that body and it had to be reviewed by them. And they also agreed that it was an appropriate use or tool to be used. And so, again, I go back to something that you and I have spoken about before, which is whether and to what extent the obligations of the city are impaired in some way. And I think you've given me the assurances that we have lots of backstops. It doesn't waterfall, for example, to the general fund, that sort of thing. And so, again, I think Stonegate has worked very hard. The agreements that we made in the last council meeting relate to different kinds of important things in terms of North Valley's infrastructure improvements, parks, that kind of thing. A sizable contribution to the Moana Pool project, sort of an acknowledgement that there are some under-resourced communities in the North Valleys that also need to have business incubator funds, all those kind of things. So I appreciate it, and I appreciate the work that you've done to get us to this point. Thank you so much.
All right, I'm going to head it back to you, Councilman Breckus, 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Next question is, you said in your staff report it's not a debt of the city, but will it be shown on the CAFR as a debt?
So trying to think of where on the CAFR, it is not, I'd have to look on where our special assessments are actually reported. But yes, they are reported as not our obligations, but we do have to let the bonding community know what those balances are and if there's any defaults.
Okay, my recollection is it's debt, but it's maybe not an obligation unless there's a default.
Right. And
But
even if there's a default, there are bond reserves that cover that while we work through those defaults.
we're not doing too well on some bond reserves right now, so let's not say that, let's not suggest that those are always going to be there for us. Now, why didn't we do this as an industrial revenue bond then?
Because that wasn't the request.
Okay. Because those seem to be a little safer to me, to the city. I've seen that way. Tell me the path forward if the council goes forward to this. Do we go to the Debt Management Commission?
So not on this one, no.
Do we go down to the state taxation?
No.
Okay, so this is just done here. No one else is looking over
Yes,
this.
because it is not an obligation of our general fund or any general tax.
Okay, so it's just, and then how do we place these out in the market? What is the process for that?
So we go through the regular bond process as we would with any other issuance. We will have discussions with the rating agencies. We will, go through all of the same things we do with any other bond. And we will sell it on the open market. We will have an underwriter that will do that work in conjunction with, there's a very large team that goes forward to push these out into the market. We have to be very honest with the investors as to what the whole project looks like, and that's what will be in the official statement, which we are working on now using the developer's deposit money. So it is these bonds would be expected to close around the end of September. So once the council approves the bond ordinance, then we start working with the market to sell the bonds.
2 last questions. When you make your disclosures out to the market in placing these bonds, will you be disclosing the existence of this inducement agreement?
No, it's not part of the bond.
Okay, that's interesting. And then also, on the, I forgot the other one. It was related to the sale. I'll hold it for the next item. I'm sure it'll come back to me. And then, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Go ahead, Councilwoman Weber. Okay, I'm going to send it to you.
Let me see if I can turn this on. First of all, I'd like to just say thank you to Stonegate and for all the work that they did, as well as I can't believe how much work you all did together, and that was really a benefit to this community and to this project of having SADs. I want to say, especially, and I'm looking out at the audience, I want to say thank you for the community benefit that this has in the city of Reno, and specifically in Ward 4. I just really can't say enough about that community benefit, what it did to, and I know that's not the topic, but I want to say thank you publicly, because I didn't say it before. And I think it's really important that you know Ward 4 really thanks you and the public, especially, and for the pool, the Moana Springs, and just that contribution is really means a lot. And I would like to move to refer bill number 7176 for a second reading and adoption.
Okay, thank you very much. So I have a motion from Vice Mayor Weber.
Second.
A second from Councilwoman Jordan. All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Okay, moving right along, Madam Clerk.
Madam Mayor, with that, transitioning to item F1, this is an ordinance adoption to be read by the city attorney.
Okay, sending it over to the famous Carl Hall. Go ahead.
Thank you once again, Madam Mayor. Ordinance adoption, ordinance number 6596, ordinance creating the City of Reno, Nevada 2021 Special Assessment District Number 2, Stonegate 1, ordering a sanitary sewer project and a water project within the City of Reno, Nevada, and providing other matters related thereto.
All right, thank you so much. Any public comment on this item, Madam Clerk?
Madam Mayor, just noting the letter that we already read into the record was also for item F1.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the body. Go ahead, Councilwoman Breckus.
I remember what I was going to ask on the last one. In this long process, someone mentioned that they'd had discussions with representatives from Stonegate that said that they probably are going to need to come in for another assessment to finish the project with more bonding. Have you had conversations about them, or was that evaluated in the underwriting?
So there is provisions in the agreements that allow for that, but at the time when they come forward for additional, we will have to assess it at that point in time, because we do still need to meet the lien to value ratios as required to determine if there is additional bonding capacity out there.
But how does that sync up with the analysis that was done so far that the property would have a certain value in terms of the bonding that goes forward through this first obligation?
So again, unless they come forward with another application for an additional bonding, we will not have done that analysis to see what that additional bond would, how that would impact houses.
Okay.
And also there is additional property that has not been included in this first assessment district that could be offered up for additional bonding capacity at some future date.
And I'd like to ask a question of the Stonegate representatives also.
Councilman Josh Hicks for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. My question for you is that agreement last week, the inducement. You all signed it, so you feel it's a legal exercise of our authority to contract with you, and your clients will not and have no plans to contest those inducements at any time in the future. Is that correct?
Councilman Bregas, we worked a long time on that agreement, and we absolutely intend to honor that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions from council members? Okay, seeing there, none, I'm going to send it to you, Vice Mayor.
I believe it would be the same ordinance number, but is that correct, or is there? Oh, 6596. So I move to adopt ordinance number 6566.
All right, I have a motion from Vice Mayor Weber.
Second.
I have a second from Councilman Reese. Go ahead, Councilman Breckes.
Yeah, I just think that I cannot allow this adoption to go without a little commentary, and I am very concerned about the city putting our faith and credit behind this development and this magnitude of this exercise. We came on, those of us who came on in 2012, came on in with the baseball agreement encumbrances, with a redevelopment agency that was so late, saddled with debt. We're still struggling with it and having to work it out. We had auction rate securities. We had claims against Goldman Sachs for some of their bond deals that got put together. And we're still struggling out of the general fund with the event center, the ballroom, and the bowling stadium debt. And here we are going forward on this with other folks lined up. And I am very concerned about the city's faith and credit with this project and what the future holds. It might not come to fruition for this council, but this thing crashes and burns, and we're left with a bunch of old land, ranch land, way at the fringes of our development, and it is very concerning. And I'm also very concerned about going out to the bond securities with this side agreement inducement that I'm not hearing a whole lot of support from the finance department for, and I really will be looking at those security disclosures when they come forward. Thank you, and I'll be opposing.
All right, thank you, Councilman Breckes. I have a motion and a second. All those in.
Wait.
Oh, go ahead.
Madam Mayor, I think it's, I have two questions. One is about the structure of when a motion is made and seconded, the participation level in that scenario. In other words, my understanding was for someone to just, if they're speaking on, after there's a motion made and seconded, that they're speaking on the actual modifications to the motion. Am I correct? Or are we relitigating something in the public forum for our own benefit?
The way I understood it was there was a motion and a second, then essentially discussion after the second, which would be a typical process, so.
Okay. I'd like to look at our council rules again, because I don't believe that's what they say. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, given that, then I will take this opportunity to thank all of the stakeholders that worked at finding a way to yes on this, to bring much-needed housing to our region and find a way to best secure the faith and credit of this city in the most responsible way to ensure the infrastructure gets implemented in this area, and again, brings to fruition what is the most critical need in our region, which is housing. So I am proud to stand in support of this motion today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries. All right, back at you, Madam Clerk.
Madam Mayor, transitioning to our multiple board and commission appointments as to the request of council. The first one today is item G11. This is appointment to the Access Advisory Committee. Madam Mayor, you are the liaison to this board.
All right, thank you. Thank you, thank you. 1 second. Okay, I would love to appoint Kathy Price-Toby. So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, I would also like to appoint Forrest Shepherd. Second. I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item G12, appointment to the Civil Service Commission pursuant to charter. You are the appointer of this with council ratification.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to appoint, we've got, gosh, what a great pool of candidates, all of these people. I want to appoint all of them, Madam Clerk. Can I do that?
I can let you pick 2 for right now.
Okay. All right. How about, let's see, gosh, it's so tough. Yvonne Allen, and you will all recognize this name, Charla Honey. All right, so I made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item G13, this is appointment to the Recreation and Parks Commission. Vice Mayor Weber, you are the liaison to this board.
Yes. I'd like to recommend the one individual is Carla Werninghouse.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Good job.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. G14, appointment to the Arts and Culture Commission. Councilmember Dewar, you are the liaison.
Yes, Mr. Eric Fong, please.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
G15, appointment to the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee. Councilmember Jordan, you are the liaison.
Barbara Devers.
Yay!
Yay.
Barbara.
I miss Barbara. I'm gonna call her. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
G16, appointment to Urban Forestry. Councilmember Dewar, your liaison.
Yes, I would like to appoint Gary Gentink, Gary Gentink, and Krista Wanfred.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, moving right along.
Thank you. G17, appointment to the Reno City Planning Commission. The current vacancy is for Ward 1. This is a council ratification of the city manager's appointment after working with the council member experiencing the vacancy.
All right, Councilwoman Breckus, or do we go to the city manager and then?
That's me.
Okay, go ahead.
So the nomination is Sylvia Villanueva.
Good, okay. I have a motion? Second. And a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Item G18, appointment to Ward 2 NAB. Councilmember Dewar.
Yep. I would like to appoint, here it is, Linda Grace. And then as 2 alternates, Lydia Navarro and Liliana Trinchero.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Good job.
G19, appointment to Ward 3 NAB. Councilman Delgado.
Yep, thank you. I'd like to appoint Ilya R. Botman, Jennifer Samayo, Ryan Smith, and Alexander Woodard.
All right. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving right along, Madam Clerk.
G110, appointment to the Ward 4 NAB. Councilmember Weber.
Thank you so much. I'd like to, for today, appoint Brian Harvey. That's a reappointment. Renee Kelly, Victoria Luck, and Casey Reed.
All right. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Madam Mayor, item G111, we do have public comment. This is appointment to the Ward 5 NAB. Carol Crane.
All right.
Mayor, council members, my name is Carol Crane. I've been in Carol Crane. Hello. I've been in Reno since 2001 for a long time, worked around, and I'm now currently living in the downtown area, part of Ward 5, which I feel is so much different and unique from the rest of the ward, and I would like to have it just represented just a little bit more by myself. It's so different there and so unique from the, as I said, from the rest of the word. I just wanted to introduce myself and thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, and you hung out the whole time, so you definitely get a medal. Great job.
And she came with Max.
And you came with this guy right here. You're in good hands. Not even close. We know all about you. All right. Go ahead, Councilwoman Jordan.
Thank you very much. At this time, Madam Mayor, I would like to appoint Carly Borchard, my beautiful friend from the Verdi area, George Foster, who was also downtown as well, and Carol Crane. Yes, George. He's doing well.
Yes. Love George. Wonderful friend. Okay. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Madam Mayor,
And
with
I would
that,
agree with all of your comments. Very much so.
I'd like to thank council for your support of getting all of your board and commission appointments active and back on. And thank you to staff for helping get all of these scheduled. With that, Madam Mayor, transitioning to item H1. These are updates from boards and commissions from council members.
Okay, any updates from council members? Seeing that there are none, unless,
I
go ahead,
do have
Councilman
one.
Reese.
Madam Mayor, mine is with regard to the color of my tie today is orange for a reason. Friday is National Wear Orange Day in acknowledgement of gun violence. Orange is the color that Hadleigh Pendleton's friends wore in her honor when she was shot and killed in Chicago at the age of 15. This was just 1 week after performing at President Obama's second inaugural parade in 2013. After her death, they asked the United States to speak up, stand out, wear orange to raise awareness about gun violence. And so this, I think, evening or Friday, we're going to light the Believe sign orange. And I think everyone received an orange mask and a Wear Orange sticker in honor of this young woman and for a National Gun Violence Awareness Day, which is this Friday.
Thank you so much. I did see the announcement too on social, so I think that's fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, Councilman Delgado.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to let you know from hearing from public comment this morning, this really struck me. Just wanted to make sure I let everyone, made everyone aware that the Health District did receive a grant, a significant amount of money to work with all of our local jurisdictions with respect on how to bring more awareness or at least a better strategic efficiency plan with respect to mental health. And so I know the mayor, the manager has been working with that along with the city as far as the health district to work with the legislation to make sure we could bring somewhat of a model like the Crisis Now model. But there's going to be there's really smart, strong people, and it's great to see that it's a regional collaboration to hopefully bring something that's going to bring hopefully a little bit of support for a lot of those families that are struggling, because it kills me when I hear that. And I know there's so many that are struggling. So
Super exciting news.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Good
it's exciting, but long overdue.
Yeah.
And
Oh
wish
my
we could do
gosh,
something more
you're not
immediate.
kidding. Thank you so much. That's amazing, amazing, amazing. I love to hear that.
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you as well, because I went out and talked with Mr. Shank. I've known him for many years, and he is really hurting. And I hope that I can talk to some of you to see how I can get help for him, because he just desperately needs some help. So thank you so much
Yeah.
for sharing that.
Yeah.
And then second of all, I wanted to say my Older Americans Month event had to be canceled due to wind, because we were outdoors. We were going to be outdoors at Sierra Sage Golf Course having lunch with our seniors that signed up. We had like 35 people. So we're rescheduling it, and it'll be on June 15th, and anyone is welcome to re-sign up, or we still are carrying on, because now we won't have the restrictions of being outside, and so we can have a few more people attend. So it'll be on June 15th, and they can call me or, I guess, Mr. Fitch,
Okay, awesome.
the liaison.
Go ahead,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I too wanted to give a quick update on Older Americans Month and the tremendous activities that were held throughout the month. I think we had 7 or 8 of them, everything from Tai Chi to ice cream to nature walks to arts events, you name it. It was a tremendous hit, and I will tell you, we closed it out on the 27th with an ice cream social at Paradise Park, and the turnout was fantastic, and it was Rita's Ice Cream was there serving ice cream to our seniors, and at the end of it, which just goes to show you the kind of year that we've all had, but in particular our seniors, we gathered together to take a picture, and it was so nice to be able to gather together to take a picture. And this beautiful little young lady stood next to me. She was tiny, tiny, and she gave me the biggest hug I have ever had, which you could tell she probably hadn't hugged anybody in a year. I think it meant more to me than her. It was tremendous. So to our city manager, I'm going to do this every year. Yeah, it was special.
Yeah, and similarly, we had a terrific turnout for our senior event. We did a nature tree walk around Virginia Lake. First of all, it was limited to 20, but 30 showed up. It was ADA accessible in that we had one gal come in a motorized scooter, which was amazing, and that was very easily accommodated. Another thing was, I think it was supposed to last an hour, but everybody unanimously voted to have it go longer. So I think it was maybe supposed to be an hour and a half. I think it went like 3 hours. They just had more questions to ask and more things to learn about. So it was truly a hit as well. So I hope that we get to repeat these even outside the special month, along with our Parks Department and maybe the Parks Foundation for that kind of thing. The second thing is, as we're working with the Nevada Cares campus, some of the early opening shakeout issues have come to the fore. One of those is how to better accommodate the animals. They're required to get shots and meet certain standards, and that's very reasonable. But it sounds like I've learned that the folks over at Washoe County are not that easily accessible, to communicate with. And so that was brought to the attention of the county. They're going to work along with me as chair of the Animal Advisory Board to try to have a person at the Animal Advisory Services, or excuse me, the Animal Services at Washoe County available by cell so that these things can get facilitated more easily, and we don't have people being turned away because we don't have staff available to vet them, that kind of thing. So I think that's just a small example of an issue that I think all of us coming together, we can solve that problem and get it fixed and move on. So I'm grateful for the county, working with our staff over at VOA and the shelter to facilitate that in a better manner. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. I want to send it back to Councilman Jordan.
Thank you very much. And I do think, given some of the comments that we received earlier today, that I know our city manager and our assistant city manager have been in, I would say, multi-times a day contact with the Nevada Cares campus and Volunteers of America to obtain and be able to disseminate, I know to us, accurate information. So I wonder if our city manager might be able to provide us accurate information as it relates to occupancy at the Nevada Cares campus.
Of course. So as of 7:30 this morning, I was on the phone with Mr. Cashel, who heads up VOA for us over there at the campus. And he informed me that they had 92 beds available. As you know, some of our trouble has been in securing mattresses. They're on order, and they'll arrive later this month. During this meeting, we were able to secure 76 mattresses from the sheriff's office, and so that will round out a number of the actual bed frames that we're lacking mattresses. We also have cots that are over there that are in use, and so the occupancy levels right now, we're just over 500 people who are in the shelter or were in the shelter last night. We have about 92 spaces available as of 7:30 this morning, and that was confirmed by our staff, both before the meeting and during the meeting. We have a staff member over at the campus to assure that no one is being turned away.
So for the record, we are not turning anybody away.
No.
Thank you very much.
Great. Good. Great information. Okay, any other council members? Seeing that there are none, this isn't an update, but I did want to thank the wonderful Ben Marjat. You're the only one that stayed the entire time, so we got to give you a shout out. But this last year, really appreciate you really messaging and helping us get, a lot of the community, I don't know if we call them PSAs or what we want to call them, but the stories that you tell are really helpful for us. So I thank you very much. And also, I just want to shout out to our wonderful Reno Police Department. Thanks, you guys. Really appreciate you guys. Tough year for everyone, but just so you guys know, we really do appreciate everything you do. And also coming to council, because I know you're probably bored, but maybe you learned a thing or two. All right. Thanks, you guys. Okay, Madam Clerk, sending it back to you.
All right, Madam Mayor, going into general closing public comment. Closing public comment is identified for items received after 4 p.m., the business day preceding our meeting, that are not specific to anything on our agenda or received after 4 p.m. Should be noted for the record, we received public comment from Trent Halmar, J.D. Draculich, Karina White, Darlene Arnold, Rachel Rekezki, Dennis Bradley, Anthony Durante, Pappy C's Woodworking, Victor Leal, Dominique Stedham, Roxanne Hamner, Melanie Scott, Baker Kruko, James Bennett, and as was noted previously, Garrett Gordon's letter was received after 4 p.m. Madam Mayor, those have all been submitted to the council and are part of the record. Additionally, we did receive public comment in person from Betty Bishop, who did not wish to speak. With that, we have no further general closing public comment, and we would be looking for your motion to adjourn.
All right, thank you. I'm going to send it to Councilman Delgado. It's probably your favorite motion, so go ahead. All right, thank you, sir. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, you guys, see you next Wednesday. Thanks for everything, and it's interesting to be back. It feels a little weird, but it's nice, super nice.